All right, what's up, guys? I got my good friend John Anthony, who I met probably about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah,
and
2021.
yeah, and we kind of had the same, outlook on our respective industries, and we kind of hit it off then, and we've been kind of, you know, helping each other kind of grow our coaching businesses with new ideas, what works, what doesn't, and sometimes we hop on each other's channel and kind of talk about each other's services. So John
Yeah,
actually was down in Florida, like 2 months ago?
yeah, I think it was in July. Yeah,
Oh, July, yeah. So we met up and I finally got to take John through a real high intensity workout. In the beginning, I explained to him, what high intensity training was. And again, it was very difficult. You probably noticed when I took you through the workout, it wasn't the same as when you're training to failure on your own or what you thought training to failure or an intense
yeah.
workout
There's like
was, right?
levels. There's like levels of failure, right?
Yeah. So I took John through a workout and got him to really feel, what a real hit workout is like. So, John, tell us what your experience was with that.
So first off, thanks for having me. And just a side note about, I think we're both like very similar in regards that we're like the beacon of truth in our industries. Like most of our industries are full of scammers, charlatans, fake gurus, internet marketers, etc. And we both have optimized systems and extreme levels of results for our clients, and we fix the problem as fast as humanly possible, whether it be for dating or fitness. So that's awesome. So I see you're like my equivalent, like in the fitness space. um with the workout, like I know, like I had a trainer when I got more serious about lifting. It was like around 2020. I had a trainer like 5 times a week, and he would always try to get me to do like those last reps, right, where you think that you're gassed out, and he would say like, just two more, and then you do those, and then he'd want two more after that. And I think when you have someone pushing you, it really takes you past the normal limit that you'd feel comfortable at stopping at, because you don't want to let the person down or look like a fucking pussy, right? And we were filming that and everything. So I remember like I would be like doing pull-ups to failure, and then holding the pull-up, and then you'd say like, try to lift again, even though you're like all gassed out. And just that contraction, even if you're not going up very much, just that contraction and concerted effort at the end makes all the difference. So my arms felt all wobbly. I remember I felt definitely like dizzy. I was super super sore after the workouts. And I think what surprised me the most is you don't have to do that much volume. It's just a matter of, once you're at your limit, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, and then keep pushing some more, right? And like really crank up the effort at the end, even if it's not comfortable. Because a lot of people, once they start feeling that lactic acid buildup, or like that exhaustion or whatever of doing the exercise, they say, "Oh, that's good enough," right? But there's still usually more in the tank. So ever since we did that training, I've been keeping that in mind, and my workouts have been much more effective since then as well.
So you've been able to push yourself even harder. Because what I like to
Yep.
explain to people is like they don't know what that threshold is until it's shown to them.
Yep.
And then when I show it to you and you feel it, now you have something to reach for.
Yep.
And
Provide a new
that is
standard.
where you get at those hard to reach muscle fibers, motor units. You have
Hmm.
to reach beyond what your perception of failure or intensity is. And it's very hard to understand what the correct feeling of true intensity is without someone showing you. So,
Yeah.
would you say I pushed you harder than your trainer?
Oh yeah, way harder. 'Cause
Yeah,
like I
most
said, I feel like there's like levels to it. Because like normally when someone like thinks of failure on their own, they're going until it's like uncomfortable, maybe a little past that, and then they're like, okay, that's good enough, right? And it's like hitting like a threshold thing. Whereas the trainer is getting you to squeeze out maybe a last couple reps, one or two more reps. But with you, like once you hit failure, there's like a whole bunch more to do. It felt like, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, I'm ready to give up. No, hold it longer. No, now pull the other direction, right? Or immediately go into a related exercise where you're straining it further. And it was by continuously pushing past that point, I think that helped take it to a new level. But I definitely noticed, like, 'cause I always ask, I'm seeing like a whole bunch of different girls on the side, right? I'm in a one-way open marriage out in Brazil, and I have a bunch of side girls. And I always ask the ones that I haven't seen, if I haven't seen them for like 2-3 weeks, like, where did you see me grow? Like, I'll take my shirt off. Where do you see the growth? And like my chest has really come in since that workout, and like other, like, shoulders have popped more and stuff like that. And people were like, dude, what do you like? Did you start taking steroids? I'm like, no, I don't. I'm super against steroids. It's because I'm training with more intensity, right? And I'm also eating cleaner too. Like we have this meal prep service that we mostly are sticking to. Because I have an endocrinologist, right? Because I'm on TRT. I'm 42 now, and my testosterone was at like 300 before I started TRT. But the endocrinologist said that he sees with his clients people that are sticking mostly to chicken and white fish. Get more defined and make cleaner gains than people that are eating a lot of meat. So we made that shift with the meal prep. We're eating a lot of like tilapia with like sweet potatoes and broccoli, right? So and then for breakfast it's typically like scrambled eggs with whole grain bread and like an apple or banana or whatever. So it's mostly healthy. And then at night, we'll sometimes order food and this and that, but it's like probably 80-90% mostly good calories. So I feel like eating mostly good calories, and I'm making sure I'm drinking enough water, because sometimes the water was lagging behind, and then training really hard with intensity. And those changes made the progression, get a lot better. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. But
let me ask you this: a lot of people have. You've been eating healthy for a while, but you were not always healthy. Like, there was a period of time where you drank a lot of alcohol.
Yeah,
you didn't take care of yourself
for a while. Yeah.
Now, how did you manage to start eating healthy and stick to it? A lot of people have a really hard time doing that.
I think a lot of it is in like the planning and the preparation, because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm hungry, I don't have any food, so I'm just gonna go get fast food, or I'm just gonna order crap or whatever, right? Whereas like we have like the plan, like Liz usually makes breakfast every morning, right? And so that's already done and healthy. And then with the meal prepped meal, we'll have like one of those per day. That's already done. And I think the important part is to make sure the healthy food tastes good, because nobody wants to eat, fucking bland, shitty food. So like this meal prep service, they use a bunch of like, there's like good flavors, and the fish tastes like super, super good. It tastes like better than bad food. So I think that's like a big component of it. If you can get the healthy food prepared with recipes, either yourself or with preparation or with a service, that where it tastes as good or better than the bad food, then you're just more inclined to stick with that. But also if you have it planned out, right? Like I have all this healthy food readily available that tastes good, and then so I can just go to that instead of. So I feel like when people are needing to eat and they don't have food, then they often default to like a poor choice.
Have you always done the meal prep service, or was there a point in time where you prepped it yourself?
I tried prepping it myself with like those, those like tabletop kind of like skillet things where you're throwing all the chicken breast on and everything and marinating the chicken breast. And this is like a little bit of a pain in the ass. I don't know. Like the meal prep services aren't that expensive. Like I'm in Brazil, so they're even cheaper. But I really feel like it's worth it just because you have a whole bunch of prepared healthy food that tastes good, right? And then you can just kind of like stick to a routine where it's okay, it's lunchtime, I'm going to pick from one of these healthy choices, right? And that way also you're controlling like trans fats and all the bad oils and all the stuff that you would get like from restaurants or fast food. We still go out to eat and stuff like that, but I think it's good to make it at least like 80-20, 75-25, where you're eating healthy most of the time, right? Nobody's doing it perfect, but I think trying to make it perfect, it makes people feel defeated too, because it's hard to maintain that level of that standard of only eating clean, right? And I don't want to only eat clean anyways, right? So it's like
food.
Yeah, so it's like doing it in a way where it's beneficial, but also like reasonable, so you can still, I think we had like pizza a couple nights ago, and we still do that every now and then, but we just try to minimize that these days.
Yeah, I noticed with my clients, when they eat healthy for a long time, they almost don't even want junky food. Like personally, if I eat like a fast food cheeseburger, it makes me feel so terrible that
Yeah.
next time I want to swing by and get a fast food cheeseburger, I'm like, that's just gonna make me feel like shit. So I just don't eat it. But what I
Yep.
try to do with my clients is I always kind of look at their current eating habits and then kind of make small adjustments to make them a little more healthy, a little more calorie conscious. So that way, I think a lot of people have a hard time going from eating gas station burritos every day to eating, eggs and oatmeal. Oh shoot,
Yep.
hold on a second. Every time this. Hold on one second.
While you're fixing the camera, I'm just going to explain some people are asking what happened to my channel. So basically, while we're waiting for him to come back here, what happened to my channel is there was a wave of AI moderation, right? So YouTube introduced this AI moderation where they're basically going through and like flagging channels improperly. So a whole bunch of channels went down and got banned. And so I unfortunately got hit with that first wave of the AI moderation. But there's tons of tons of people talking about it on Reddit. And some of the bigger YouTubers have been saying how like this is like the most channels that's ever gone down in the history of YouTube. Unfairly in a lot of cases due to the AI moderation. So it's in limbo right now. We're hopeful it'll come back. But in the meantime, I'm putting out daily videos on Rumble. And we put that Rumble link in the description as well. Oh, your audio.
All right. You do a lot of Instagram too, right?
Yeah, we're trying to pick that up more. We're starting to post 3 times a day, stuff like that, showing lifestyle clips and we have a lot of, just like you, we have a lot of testimonials. We have thousands of testimonials now, so we're going to start showcasing a bunch of those on Instagram as well.
Well, if for those who are not familiar with what you do, tell them what you do, man.
Yeah, so I have a background as a systems engineer. So I used to work on defense contracts for Lockheed Martin for 5 years out of college. I'm really good at optimizing systems and optimizing anything that's a skill game. So once I realized dating was a skill game and you can get better at it just like you would with like poker or chess, then I just systematized the whole dating game from start to finish. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I recently hit 2,000 body count. And yes, that's a true, real thing that happened. I've been reporting it for like 15 years online with endless proof. I take the number very seriously. A lot of people think it's fucking weird or gross, but I slept with 2,000 girls officially in July of this year. I'm up to 2,034. But the point is that guys can just plug into the system. We show them exactly how to optimize their online profiles, exactly what to message on Tinder, exactly what to text. And then they very quickly start getting flooded with dates. And we show you how to walk up to girls and pick them up at bars and clubs and during the daytime. And then we show you how to run the dates, close the dates, and then keep the best girl or best girls that you want. So the whole thing is systematized from start to finish. If anybody has interest in finding out more, you can go to platinumdatingsystem.com or the link in the description for that.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. John's service, John's content, it's not for everyone. I get that. I get I'm an exercise channel, but over the last however many years, most of the men who want to get in shape, younger guys, for the older guys who watch this and they like the exercise information, this stuff isn't for you, and it's fine. You don't have to, get mad at it. But part of my goal is to help younger guys, because many of them I speak to are trying to get in shape because dating these days is tough. All right. I'm not a dating coach, but if you're a younger guy, this. That dating
You've seen the
is tough. Older
statistics,
guys
right?
don't
The amount of
understand.
sexlessness, the amount of virginity, everything's on the rise, right?
This kind of content sometimes rubs people the wrong way. And it's probably people who are older, people who are married, and they're not in the position that a lot of men are in. And if you younger guys know, dating is tough. All right. Everybody's got these dating profiles. and they're trying to date, they're trying to start families, they're trying to meet people, because back in the past, it wasn't like this. In the past, you would just, and this is probably what the older guys are thinking. In the past, they're like, you just meet women, and then eventually you'd have a relationship, you'd marry, and you do all that stuff. But it's different now, and I think this kind of content rubs people the wrong way because they don't understand. They're not in that position. I've been in that position, and guys they're looking for answers. So based on that, I know a lot of my audience came from you. A lot of my audience is in this position, whether they like to admit it or not. This is a part of life that people want to figure out. Okay. They don't have to look at this from the whole pickup artist thing, or, being a player or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be sleazy.
No, the vast majority of young men are having a hard time dating, and they're using online dating because that's kind of how it is now. And a lot of them don't have success with it. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but the thing is, you got to face it. And that's kind of what right? You essentially help people meet more people. Essentially, it doesn't have to be this giant, go around, find a bunch of women kind of thing. You help people network, meet more women, and just meet people, because it's a different environment these days. We don't have to look at it like a sleazy thing. So you help people essentially with the online dating thing, right?
Yeah, the whole end-to-end process, right? So guys are typically afraid to walk up to women in public as well. So we show them how to walk up to a girl in a bar or club, or at the grocery store, or out on the street. And what do you say? How do you move it forward? How do you set up a date? How do you flirt so you're not friend zoned? Right? How do you deal with the friends in the group, and so on and so forth? Once you get her number, how do you text? How do you get the date set up over text? How do you confirm the date? How do you run the date? So everybody has a strategy, but it's just normally a very bad strategy, or they're just completely winging it. And so what ends up happening is, if they do get the courage to talk to a girl in public, they can screw it up and not get the phone number. If they get the phone number, they can screw it up over text and not get the date. If they get the date, they can screw up the date and not get her back home. If they get her back home, they can screw that up and not get the hookup. And if they get the hookup, they can screw it up and the girl ghosts them after the first hangout. So there's basically like different bottlenecks. And what we do with each client is we help them optimize their online profiles, which typically like 10x is their matches. We show them exactly what to message on the apps to routinely turn the matches to phone numbers, exactly what to text to turn the phone numbers to dates, and then exactly how to run and close the dates. And everything's looked at with kind of qualitative and quantitative metrics. So it's, how many of your dates that you wanted to bring back home came home? Like how many, numbers did you get to meet up for dates, et cetera? Because most guys are failing because they have bad online profiles and they're too scared to walk up to girls in public. And there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. So a lot of the stuff that guys find on YouTube and on social media about dating is just completely wrong. Just like in your field, right? Like you said, there's like a lot of the big fitness channels are just pumping out nonsense just to make money. And it's the same in the dating space, unfortunately, as well. So a lot of guys have tried to implement various strategies from coaches that are fake gurus, and they've come up short, and then they blame themselves, or they blame women, or they blame their looks. So, you have like the black pill where guys are being told if you don't look like a Chad or a model, that you have no chance in the dating game. Or in the red pill, they're told that, women are below you, and they're all going to try to screw you over. They're all going to try to cheat on you. And those things are just simply false. So I try to encourage guys that regardless of your lack of success in the past, or how shy you are, or how short you are, or how old you are, once you learn the proper strategy and tactics and the proper mindset, then you can just have a whole bunch of really high quality dating options. And then you can just choose the best one or the best ones to get more serious with. So I want people to understand that this is a skill game, and this is a learnable skill. And most guys have negative narratives they're telling themselves, where they think that they're an exception, or they think this won't work for them. But we have thousands of examples of clients all around the world that are very average, normal people getting their dream girl or girls by following the system. So it's the same, same approach you take, right? You plug into the system, it's optimized, it's backed by data, right? It's not a bunch of like feel good woo-woo BS. right? It's like you're not pitching fad diets and fad workouts. You're pitching the fundamentals of what it takes to build muscle or lose fat, right? And it's the same in my field. So we just want to get clients as many, as close to the dating goals that they have as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it probably is sort of a numbers game. I mean, kind
Yeah,
of
volume
like
is a component for sure. Yeah, because
I
you
think I
can't. There's a
think
lot of
like
factors outside of your control. You can't help it sometimes when they stop responding or when they flake.
yeah, and I think a lot of the red pill, black pill stuff. It seems to just be people who are frustrated and
Oh
they
yeah,
want to blame something. And
victims. Yeah.
I like to approach this more from like a traditional perspective. I'm not a pickup guy. I'm not like a pickup artist, whatever. I I believe most men should start families. Most men, if they got married and had a good marriage, it 10x's your whole life.
Oh yeah.
But from what I've noticed is a lot of men they've almost checked out. They almost feel like it's never going to happen, or something's just going to fall in their lap. But I think
Yep.
like everything in life, it requires effort. And basically you're kind of showing people the best way to utilize their effort and utilize their time. So that way
That's right.
situation, all these 56-year-old guys, I've talked to, I would tell them, yeah, I know a guy who's a dating coach and blah blah blah. They're like, a dating coach? And I'm like, you don't understand, man. Like it's not the same these days, especially after like 2020. Things just went total digital.
With COVID.
And
Yeah.
I think personally, like, there's probably a problem of men just staying single, ignoring the whole family, the whole marriage thing,
Oh yeah.
focusing on themselves and building their business and being
But
like
they're
Andrew
ultimately not
Tate, get a
fulfilled,
Lambo.
right?
No,
Like,
it's not fulfilling. I think at the end of the day, they think that is going to give them that long-term goal, which ultimately it's hardwired in men to want a family and to like lead a family. And
yeah,
they
for
try
sure.
to like, I think a lot of people think that if
Oh, I think we lost him. I think it froze up there for Jay. Basically, like to expand, or waiting for him to return. To expand on that point,
oh, there we go. That's weird.
it froze for a sec. But to expand on your point, like I've had a whole bunch of clients that have like everything going for them when they come to me. Like they're crushing it in business. They could even be doing well with fitness and other things. And if they don't have a high quality woman by their side, they're oftentimes not fulfilled. Whereas in the reverse, if a guy has like, he's unemployed and he's living at home and this and that, but he has like a cool girl by his side, he oftentimes is fulfilled. So it seems like the make or break thing that leads to happiness and fulfillment. Because even if you do go have this awesome life, it's not nearly as cool if you can't share it with someone, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think like, it's a touchy subject, but I think a lot of people, they know that they need to kind of work on it, but they kind of don't want to. Maybe they're embarrassed to admit it, or I don't know. But I talk to a lot of men, and I would say the majority of my clients are single men trying to get in better shape to improve their dating options. Um, this one guy asked, what would you say? How much do you think being in shape and having muscles improves like your dating options?
Um, I think like so
Just
the
in
sexual market,
general with general men.
yeah. So like the sexual market value stuff, right? Like getting better muscles, doing aesthetic stuff. Um, that definitely helps, but I feel like the majority is like the strategy and tactics. I think because I've seen a lot of guys that were like super skinny. I feel like if you're overweight or obese, the dating game almost becomes a non-starter. So that becomes a big
Yeah.
problem. Like those are some of the only clients that I traditionally can't help, just because if you're very overweight, like you're not going to be appealing on Tinder. And if you're walking up to a girl in public and you're very overweight, it's not, it's not a very good first impression. And girls just don't like, big obese guys typically. So if you have that issue, you need to lose the fat as quick as possible. Regarding muscles, I feel like it gives you better chances on the dating apps, right? Because that's all they're going off of is the aesthetics, and also first impression when you walk up to girls as well. So I wish I had gotten more serious about lifting sooner. Like now I get girls all complimenting my body and stuff like that, and I have like shirtless pictures I can send where they all go crazy and stuff like that. And I was like very skinny through most of my game progression. Like the first 1,000 girls, like I wasn't even lifting. But I'm tall, right? I'm 6'4". Some people say, "Oh, well, you're tall, so you don't need to be strong." But I was about like 170, like even lower in college, maybe like 165, 160 at 6'4", and now I'm 220, right? And now like I just get a lot more attention and compliments and stuff like that from girls. So I definitely would recommend that you guys follow Jay's advice and get bigger, because it's going to make the game easier, right? But you still have to learn the strategy and tactics as well. Like I've had Jack clients that were virgins, and they're like, yeah, I run out of stuff to say, or I go on a date and it goes for hours leading to nowhere, or I don't sexualize the conversation, I get friend zoned, or it's still all the same problems that normal people have, but they get more attention on the apps and up front when they walk up to the girl. But you still need like the skills to see it all the way to the conclusion.
Yeah, I was saying this to a friend yesterday about like obesity. You know, whether it's right or wrong, if you're obese, you're going to be treated differently. Not only
Yeah,
by, dating options, but by just people in general. Like when you said you walk up, make a first impression. It's probably subconscious, but that's kind of how people are. If you're
yeah,
massively overweight, if you're 250, 300 pounds, your life is different in public than if you're leaner and in shape. And I
yeah,
always say just, getting in shape is the ultimate life hack, not only for, of course, what you specialize in, but just in overall opportunities. And I
yeah,
think like once people get in shape and they have the confidence, they see people are treating them differently. Then there's probably that component of confidence, natural confidence, not that fake stuff a lot of people do, that probably helps them in that aspect. Because you even said, with obese clients, you can give them all the tools and it's still a huge handicap, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And those are some of the only guys I can't help, right? Because the girls just typically just don't want to match with them on the apps, or they're not that interested in talking to them in person, just because the guy is very big. And in the US, like I'm not sure about how many guys are overweight these days, but I just saw a statistic recently that said 2 in 3 women over the age of 20 in the US are overweight. So every 2 out of 3 girls is potentially too big, right? So that's kind of a lot, right? And I'm sure it's pretty similar for the amount of guys. And having lived, like I'm in South Brazil right now for the past 5 years, and before that I lived in Poland and Ukraine. And Eastern Europe and South America have such lower rates of obesity, especially Eastern Europe. Like in Poland, it was like seeing someone in a wheelchair, like the frequency of seeing someone obese. So, and then you like get back in the US in the airport, and it's just like a different planet.
Mhm.
I think a lot of that is like the portion sizes are way bigger in the US. They're like in Poland and in Brazil, they prohibit GMOs and high fructose corn syrup and other stuff that's really bad for you in the food. Whereas in the US, that stuff is permitted. And just the availability and naturalization of fast food. Like in Brazil, that there's like it's extremely rare to see like a drive-through for food. Like it's there's like hardly any of them. Whereas in the US, they're like on
Bro,
every
there
block.
are.
I tell my friends here, and they're like can't believe it. And people kind of see fast food as gross here, whereas like in the US, it's pretty normalized.
There are
So
4 drive-through. There's a Culver's, Wendy's, McDonald's, and a Taco Bell right at the entrance of my neighborhood. So,
wow.
like, very strategically placed, and they're near a grocery store. So people get
Yeah.
home from work or they're on the way to work and they swing through. And I'll tell you,
Yep.
when McDonald's morning 7, 8 a.m., the line is backed up to the road. And it's a convenience thing. It's a convenience
Yeah.
thing. But, I
100%.
always teach people like, having a fulfilling, successful life is not convenient. Like you have to do inconvenient things.
Yep.
Um, you've got to put effort into some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where it goes back to the planning, right? If it's like morning and you got to eat and you're late for work, it's easy to just say, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go to the drive-through. Whereas if you plan out like, I'm going to have prepared food or I'm going to cook breakfast. It's pretty easy to cook like scrambled eggs, right? And toast bread.
It takes 30
So like,
seconds.
yeah, anybody can do that. So, but yeah, it's just so normalized and so accepted. I see people in the US just like so shamelessly, like they'll be sitting there with like a supersized meal, even though they're huge already. And they just don't even care. Right. So, but yeah, with the gym, like the reason why I say I wish I got into it sooner for the aesthetic parts, of course, but like you just feel better about yourself, right? When you're in shape, you feel better. And it also develops like a really good discipline that can be like a cornerstone in your life, right? This is something that you're working on, you're building on, that you make a habit out of and that you're proud of. And that's a big part of it for me as well, just having this thing that I'm continuously working on, that I'm proud of, that I prioritize to make sure that I keep improving on it. Did you freeze again?
Yeah, I don't know why that keeps
there you go.
happening. It keeps cutting out.
Oh, it's back now.
Maybe YouTube's pissed. But yeah, you were talking about like discipline.
Yeah. I mean, like when you have discipline with the gym, right? Like when you're still going and doing workouts, even when you don't feel like it, and you're pushing through the workout to make sure you give it your all and all that stuff, then that carries over in other areas of your life because it makes you want to be disciplined and regimented with other stuff, right? So I feel like, and my friends always told me that we're into fitness, but I always thought I knew better. Like, oh no, I have other stuff to do. But when you prioritize the gym and you stick with it and you make it part of your discipline, then that discipline carries over into a bunch of other areas of your life. It makes you want to eat better, and you just feel better overall about yourself.
Yeah, and
So,
there,
so there's all
there are ways to do things much more efficiently. Like if think about it. If you're obviously with training, you can optimize your results in very little time spent in the gym, and I showed you that personally. I think afterwards you said it felt like you trained for 2 hours. I think it worked out for about 30 minutes. But
Yep.
even like when it comes to like meeting people, maybe a lot of guys, like maybe they go out and they spend all this money and try to meet women and stuff, and then every weekend they're $500 in the hole with nothing to show for it. So there's
Yep.
more efficient ways to kind of do all this stuff that maybe people just don't understand.
Yeah. And like with the online profiles, like one of the biggest things is that guys really need pro pictures. Like too many guys are just trying to use like random pictures from their phone on Tinder and Bumble and Hinge. When you get a pro photo shoot, like what we do with our clients is we give them like a 38-page guide that shows them exactly how to optimize their online profile and exact instructions for the pro photographer so that they get a bunch of really, really good shots. Right. And then they end up with 200 or 300 photos from the photo shoot. And we have a team of hot girls internally in the company that will go and select the best 5 pictures. So they're not like just hoping that the pictures are good. The girls are literally choosing the best 5 out of hundreds that, like, the pose, the what it conveys, the background, the smile, everything. These are the ones that are the most attractive to attractive girls. And so then when you put them on the online profile, and we add like some aesthetic upgrades on their face a little bit without catfishing them, when you put that on the online profile, all of a sudden their match rate 10x's. And I write their bios for them by hand. I have like a kind of a formula I use for that. And it's the same guy, but now he's presenting himself in a much better light. And now he just gets flooded with matches, right? And then what's the next domino to tip? You need to give him the proper message pathways of what to do on Tinder, right? Because there's a lot of mistakes that can be made there. So now he's converting all those matches into phone numbers, and then you give him the text scripts. He's converting all those phone numbers into dates. So most of our clients, regardless of being a virgin or on a dry spell or fresh out of a divorce or whatever the results are, they start getting their schedule slammed full of new dates by like the second week of my training. And all we did was get them some pro pictures and give them the proper scripts to send on the apps. That's it. And then we show them how to execute the dates and what to do when they get the girl back home and how to get her back home and how to, get her wanting to see you again, right? If you want to make that girl a girlfriend or get more serious. And then once the guy learns those skills, if it doesn't work out with that particular girlfriend, he has a process to go meet new girls again and find another good quality girlfriend, which is worlds better than having no options or minimal options with very not attractive girls, right? Because a lot of guys are just taking whatever they can get, which is usually not much or nothing at all. And then they're becoming part of that statistic of sexlessness or virgins, and all that stuff's on the rise. And like you said, like with 2020, with COVID and all that, people stopped going out as much. And so it's more rare these days that people are meeting out in public, but we teach guys how to do that too, how to have confidence to walk up to strangers in public and strike up a conversation, get a number and set a date for later. And that skill is very important to master as well. Cause guys are seeing attractive girls out and about in their day-to-day lives
all day, every day, dude. All day, every day.
Yeah, you're in a good spot for hot girls in Florida. So like most guys would just say, oh, I'm not good enough for that girl, or she probably has a boyfriend, or she probably wouldn't like me, or this or that. But once you know what to do and what to say and how to move it forward and how to make things happen, then suddenly you have like this new superpower where all of these attractive girls you see in public now become viable dating options, whereas before you were kind of just spectating and being defeatist. So I really like to empower guys because I was super shy back in high school, right? I had anxiety problems and panic disorder and all that stuff. And I thought I would probably never have sex my whole life, right? And then as I kind of broke out of my shell and started gaining some confidence and learning how to do this stuff, it's really not that complicated. Once you know how to do it properly, it's pretty straightforward and simple. Just like the fitness stuff, it's not rocket science, right? There's like a method and like your stuff, it allows guys to train for less time and get better results, right? I get guys slammed with dates within a week or two. This stuff doesn't take months or years, right, to master the dating game. So I think it's important that guys learn this because you don't learn it in school, right? The advice that comes from movies and pop culture and stuff isn't very accurate. So you kind of need to learn from someone that's gone through all this stuff thousands of times, been on thousands of dates, right? I have over 25,000 phone numbers in my phone right now, right? Which is more than most people will ever get. But that's not the point. The point is that I've just seen and done it all many times over, so I can help guys navigate any and all block points and points of confusion to end up successfully finding the girl that they want. And like you said, most guys just want a relationship or a wife that they, that checks a lot of boxes and stuff like that. And I really think that guys shouldn't sell themselves short, right? Instead of settling, try to find the girl that checks all the boxes or most of the boxes, right? You just need the skills to learn how to, make her interested in you.
Yeah, I would say it would be very rare to go on 5 dates and then meet that, the person that checks all those boxes. It kind of has to be a numbers game. I think like, back in the old days, I think about like, my father or my uncle, they would just run around and talk to and still to this day, my father, like if he sees a good looking woman, he just talks to him. It's almost subconscious because that's kind of what they did back in the day. But since everything turned digital, there's this weird shift where people don't do that. They almost don't know how to do that. And the thing is, do you think a lot of guys are almost reluctant to admit that. I mean, I always wonder why this is so controversial. Is it, because maybe guys' egos get in the way and they're like, oh,
Well,
dating advice is fucking stupid, blah, 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 blah. But it's very
yeah,
common that they're not as
a lot of
successful
people
as they would
think
like to be.
a lot of people think that it's about like a series of pickup lines, so they think it's like cheesy, right? Because if you look at like how like the pickup artist community is viewed, or like the manosphere, you had like mystery and then these various characters wearing like top hats and feather boas and painting their nails black and going out and saying like a series of lines. And so I think a lot of guys think that, it's just like a corny set of lines or something like that. But that's not how the game actually works. It's knowing how to move things forward at the different points so that you can make it to the next level. Right. So
Yeah.
how do you have that conversation and pique the girl's interest so that she's wanting to go out with you on a date? Right. How do you conduct yourself on the date and invite her back to your place such that she's inclined to come home with you and hook up with you? Right. Or how do you get her to see you again when she has all these other options? How do you get her to choose you? So it's not necessarily that you need to know a bunch of lines, or that you have to lie or manipulate or any of that stuff. It's just that you need to know the reliable way to move forward, because like if your texting sucks, any phone numbers you get aren't going to make it over to a date. If your online profile sucks, you're not going to really get many matches, or you're going to get low quality matches. And those problems stay there until they're fixed. Right. So all the people watching right now, or all the people out in the world that have bad online profiles, you can swipe all day long, for weeks or months on end, and you're not going to really get much result from it because the profile isn't optimized. Right. Or if you walk up to a girl in public and you don't know how to run the interaction or move the interaction forward, it's typically not going to go anywhere. And same with dates and so on and so forth. So it's just a series of levels that they need to learn. Like how do I get phone numbers from girls in public and on the apps reliably? How do I text to move those phone numbers to dates? How do I run the dates to move the girls back home? How do I conduct myself back home to get the hookup? And then how do I do the retention portion, right? And each one of those kind of has like a strategy behind it that still allows the guy to remain fully authentic in who he is, right? It's not about becoming someone you're not, or using any lines. It's just about being comfortable in your own skin and expressing, what makes you different from other guys without bragging, in a way that's going to be naturally attractive to the girls. And it's really not that complicated once guys understand. A lot of guys say that it feels like very simplified and straightforward, which it is. And they say they feel like they have the cheat codes now, and they didn't know that it was as simple. So a lot of the advice out there just overcomplicates things. It confuses guys. It turns them into someone that they're not. They're trying to impress the girl. They're trying to be clever or witty, and all that stuff backfires because the girls see right through it, and they see that the guy is, overcompensating, trying to win her over, which if he was comfortable and confident that he was already good enough, he wouldn't need to be doing. So once guys kind of understand how this stuff actually works, they very quickly are able to, take the fast track to finding their ideal girlfriend. And like you said, it sometimes doesn't happen right away, but you'll have a reliable process to keep getting new high quality dates. And then you can go and see who you have the chemistry with, and who checks the most boxes, which is
What would
far
you
better than
say?
having no options.
I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn this, and I'm sure you've learned this over over the years. What are some traits that make men attractive?
I would say confidence is one of the number one things, even though that might sound cliche. Confidence, believing that you're good enough for the girl just how you are. Because when you're not believing in yourself, which is the problem that most guys have, is they're like focused on different flaws they have, or different shortcomings, or lack of success from the past with girls. And they focus on that. And then if they do go talk to a woman in public or go on a date, it comes through in their words and their body language that they think they're not good enough. And it's very difficult for the woman to think that you're good enough for high value if you don't believe it yourself. So we first have guys like adjust their mindset and focus on their strengths and what they bring to the table, so that they're conveying confidence, right? And then they're also attracted to the guy, treating everything as kind of not a very big deal, right? You're not making big problems over stuff or having huge reactions to stuff. You kind of just like take things in stride. And also, you know, keeping the conversations lighthearted and fun, because a lot of guys try to have serious conversations or just purely logical conversations with the girls. They want a guy that's like playful, fun, lighthearted, cracking jokes, etc. So, and the authenticity really goes a long way as well, because most guys are like, well, how do I be the version that she'll like, or how do I be the version that she'll be attracted to? So if the guy's comfortable in his own skin, believes that he's good enough, is being authentic, is keeping things lighthearted and playful, and then he knows the strategies about how to move her through the process, right? Because it's not simply good enough to just go talk to her. You have to direct it towards a phone number and setting up a date, right? It's not so good enough to just go on a date and sit there and talk to her. You have to know how to invite her back home and what to do if she's, you know, concerned about safety or concerned about hooking up too soon or concerned about how much time she has or whatever. There's various ways to deal with those things in turn. And then we also show guys how to just showcase, you know, different things they have going for themselves without bragging, so that the woman is intrigued and her interest is piqued, right? I tell my clients, you want to basically come across as like the full package guy, and you want her even giving you that feedback sometimes, right, on a date. And they hear stuff like, oh, wow, so you're basically like the whole package, or you're basically like the perfect guy, haha, right? And that's far better than just, oh, you know, he seems okay, I don't know if I'll go see him again, you know, it's nothing special, right? So I'm just showing guys how to become the most attractive version of themselves without changing, you know, who they are fundamentally, or without, you know, needing to go get fancy clothes and that stuff. And of course, you know, the gym helps and working on aesthetic stuff helps. But at the core, I think once the guy is just carrying himself, you know, like quote unquote the man, without being arrogant about it, then that's very, very naturally attractive, because women respond to the behavior that a guy is putting out. Like, she doesn't know your past success or lack of success with women. And that's kind of like a big thing that clicks for clients, is that they don't know. Like, guys will say, oh, well, you do well with girls because you've been with thousands of girls, but they don't react positively to me because I've been with zero or been with only a couple. I say, they don't know that, right? They only know how you carry yourself in that moment. So if you roll up and act confident, she's going to be attracted and she's going to think that you're cool. Whereas if I rolled up and acted unsure of myself and you know, was wavering and all this stuff and felt I was low value, then she's going to reject me. It doesn't matter. You don't get a free pass just because you've had a bunch of success with girls in the past. So once guys kind of realize that it's about how they carry themselves, and a lot of the confidence comes from knowing what to do next as well, because there's no curveballs, there's no guesswork once you know all the different ways that things can happen in the interactions and on the dates and stuff like that. So we basically equip them with, you know, the best moves, the best mindset. And then I tell guys, just leave it out on the table, you know, let the chips fall where they may. Some girls will be really into you, other girls will not. And that's just how it goes. You can't expect for every girl to like you, and it's not realistic, right? A lot of guys think that they should, but that's not how it goes.
Yeah. So you kind of mentor guys on how to find that inner confidence, right? Because there's probably a lot of guys probably have this story that they tell themselves that reduces their. So you kind of mentor them and show them that they actually are good enough, even though they feel like they're not. Because that is a common thing I'm seeing. A lot of guys just think, you know, they're not rich, they're not super handsome, they're not jacked, whatever. They don't drive a nice car, and
Yeah, so let me respond to that. I think his video froze up again. So I tell clients to make a list of their accomplishments, skills, cool experiences, interests, and hobbies, right? And those are the things that separate them from other guys. And then that helps them to believe in themselves initially. And then as they get more matches, more phone numbers, more dates, more hookups, more opportunities for retaining girls, all that directly feeds back into your confidence. And you can't tell yourself those negative stories anymore when you're going out with girls that you find attractive, or when you're getting phone numbers from girls you find attractive, or when you're hooking up with girls you find attractive. So in the beginning, I just have them focus on all the different things that are their strengths, and that separate them from other guys. And then they immediately start getting demonstrable empirical confirmation that they're good enough, right? And nobody can take that away. I'm like, okay, you went out with a girl that you rate an 8 out of 10. Like 8 out of 10 is fine, you attractive. So keep that in mind next time you're doubting yourself, right? Because when a guy gets a rejection or a girl ghosts him or gives a lame excuse and flakes the date, it's easy for the guy to blame himself and think it's because he's not good enough. But I tell them to reframe that and still believe in yourself and set your value at like 100 out of 100, which means you're good enough for any girl just the way you are at the current time. That doesn't mean you can't improve. It just means you're good enough how you are. And there's like a brick wall, like a metaphorical brick wall, where like rejections, ghosting, maybe negative reactions when you approach, etc. It doesn't change your value, right? Because most guys, their perceived value in their mind is like fluctuating like a roller coaster. They're like, okay, I think I'm cool.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, they're like, I think I'm cool, but I just faced some rejection, some ghosting, so now I think I suck. And then tomorrow, a couple of dates show up, and I'm cool again, right? So instead of being victim to these external circumstances that in some cases are out of your control, a lot of cases, it's better, or the random opinion of strangers, it's better to just fix your value at 100 out of 100. It doesn't mean you can't do any wrong. It just means you're good enough how you are. And then when you inevitably face a rejection or ghosting or a flake, you just kind of take it in stride, and you know that's just how it goes. That just happens. The same in sales. I always tell my clients, like guys that go door to door knocking to sell things. I did that for a summer to see how it applies to game. And some people just open the door and tell you to F off and slam the door, get off my property. Some people don't want to buy or don't want to be solicited to, or they're just in a bad mood, or they already have it, or whatever whatever else it is. And I watched like the rookies get all like emotionally thrown off, like yell back at the house and stuff like that. Whereas the veterans would just kind of laugh it off, and it wouldn't really impact them because they just know that's just part of knocking on strangers' doors. So I tell my clients, when you inevitably approach a girl that's in a bad mood or tells you to go away or whatever, don't take it personally. Some girls won't be interested. It's like you're opening a question mark door and it's a no-go, and you close it and you try a different one, right? But if you let that deflate your confidence, then that's going to screw up your results with the next girls that you talk to that could be very interested, right? And then you're coming in with a negative energy.
That actually happened to me when I was younger. There was like there was a girl I knew, and I went to talk to her, and she was super mean to me. And like a month later, she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember I was a bitch to you." She said I was in a really bad mood, and then I ended up going out with her.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not always
personal.
you don't. Yeah, it's not always like your fault,
Yep.
This one guy asked if a guy isn't, or he says if a guy isn't at least a 6 out of 10 in looks, which I mean that's subjective. He will find out real quick dating in the West isn't worth it. What do you think about that? I think
don't believe
personally, I think it's untrue. I've seen many men who
Average.
couldn't possibly be considered attractive date extremely good looking women. So I don't, and I think it came down to the confidence.
Yeah, exactly. It's because women respond to behaviors, right? So like the black pill guys, the ones that all say that the game is all looks. Before I was doing, more aesthetic upgrades, like I did Botox and was lifting a lot. And so that before that, they were calling me like a 2 out of 10, right? And they were later downgrading it to a 1 out of 10, which defeats their own ideology because I have tons and tons of proof of sleeping with different hot girls every single day, right? A lot of them are repeats, but I've been doing that for like 15 years. So it can't be the case that, if you're below a 5 or a 6, you can't get girls. And there's tons of examples of that. And most of my clients look average by definition, and a lot of them are looking below average, but they very consistently are able to find attractive dating options. And I have thousands of examples of that, right? But if you just study like the science, like evolutionary psychology, women respond to survival and replication value, right? It's evolutionary. It's hardwired into them, and they're responding to behaviors for like an attractive mate of how he carries himself. So it's not that looks is irrelevant. It's just far less relevant than most people think. And it's not a deal breaker, really, I've found, unless you're overweight, right? Significantly overweight. If you're an average looking guy or you're a below average looking guy, it's not over for you. This is the problem. Guys are told this, and then they just like raise the white flag and they never even try. And I've had so many people email me that were like, I thought that I was too unattractive to get girls, and I tried what you said on your channel, and I went on a date with a really hot girl and slept with her, or I got a really hot girl's phone number, and I didn't know this was possible for me. And so that's part of the enjoyment. And I'm sure you hear the same type of stuff, busting fitness myths. That's part of the enjoyment of being a coach, is you see people that were believing these myths in the space that was halting or preventing all their progress. And then they go and try what you say, and they see a very quick change in results. And then they're believers, right? Because it worked for them personally.
Yeah. And then their life is better because the one thing that was holding them back, they found a solution to.
Yes.
And that's an immediate upgrade in life. Here's another question. Kind of random questions. If a dude's balding, isn't it like 60 or 70% of men bald eventually anyway? Should he just clip it really short or shave his head entirely when it comes to like looks? And I'm sure there are probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men who their confidence is destroyed by balding. Do women really care that much?
Well, first of all, I've had a lot of clients that are balding or receding hairlines that crush. I've also had a bunch of bald clients that crush. I always leave the ultimate decision up to the girls. So like we have apps that can like see exactly what they would look like if they're bald. And we just show the hot girl team, does he look better now, how his hair is, or does he look better with it completely shaved? And it's not always the same answer. Like some guys look better bald, some guys look better with short hair. So I think it's up, and again, of course, it has to be something he's comfortable with as well. It's not just what the girls prefer, but I think looking at what the girls prefer can help, resolve that when the guy can feel better about it because they're going to have a clear preference. Same thing with like glasses versus no glasses, stuff like that. I always have the girls look at the two options and then choose or at least give them the feedback of which is more attractive to females. So yeah, I don't think that like necessarily every guy should fully shave his head. I think it depends on the guy and how it would look.
Don't you think? I saw something like if an individual's overweight, it's the extra fat on their face, like with overweight people, that just that's the one thing that kind of reduces their attractiveness. And then as you lose weight, you have a more defined jaw, more defined cheekbones, and you look much more attractive. That's probably a huge part of it. It's probably not the body, right? It's just kind of like, if you look a little softer, a little rounder, you just don't, I guess, look as masculine. And I guess I would say for the most part, women kind of prefer kind of a more masculine look, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely true as well. Yeah, it's the body fat level. They even do, like I'm sure you've seen on Instagram, where they take like good looking celebrities and they show what they would look like with a little more body fat, and it just kind of like ruins their aesthetic in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
And you have in your programs, ways to cut body fat. I think everybody should try to maintain, some. What do you recommend formally for like the body fat range?
So I've seen a lot of I don't know if they're true, but from my own anecdotes and things I've seen like on social media, where they would go up to women and say, rate this body type. They would show very, very muscular. They would show very shredded. And then they would show kind of something in between. They always women prefer something in between. I think the belief that women prefer ripped, shredded bodies is a myth. I would say, anywhere from 10 to 15% body fat is preferred. I've even, in people I've asked personally, like, ooh, no, that's too much. That's too ripped. Even when it comes to, muscles, if you're too big, if you look like a bodybuilder, it just looks kind of weird. You just want to, from what I've experienced is just looking strong, durable and fit. That's pretty much it. Whether that's 170 pounds or 210 pounds, it's you just need to look like a strong, capable man.
Yeah, I actually did a video on this where I researched all the science, and that's exactly right. When the body fat is too low, like under like 10, I think, or even under 8, the girls aren't very attracted to it because it looks like the guy's trying way too hard and making it way too big of a deal. I think they were the most attracted to like 10 to 12%. And they're attracted to typically like athletic bodies, not the bodybuilder physique.
Mhm.
Because the bodybuilder physique is like more of like a niche taste. You know, some girls like that, but I think that from what I found from all the evidence and the studies is that a guy that's lifting but not taking it to the extreme, and that has good body fat but not extremely shredded, that's what's most attractive.
Yeah, what if like evolutionarily, like being extremely shredded? Because I think from an evolutionary biological perspective, we're really just attractiveness is just assessing um, survival likelihood of offspring. You know, if somebody is more proportional, if somebody isn't super overweight, and then again, if somebody's too lean, you know, your subconscious biology probably looks at a super shredded guy as like, wow, he's starving to death. We shouldn't
Yep.
produce offspring with him because he will die. It's
Well, I think from what I found in the studies, because I was looking at like girls' subjective feedback on those types of bodies as well, and they're saying it looks like the guy's trying way too hard. I think
yeah.
it'd be the same thing about a guy like trying to like flex a Lambo or like a private jet or something like that, or like dressed up too nice in the club. It just looks like the guy like really cares too much, and then it starts to like work against him a little bit.
It comes back to authenticity, right? It looks
Yeah.
inauthentic.
Yep.
This one guy JC asks, why do you think male loneliness is on the rise? And that's kind of why I thought a lot of my viewers would value this content, because he
Yep.
asks why male loneliness is on the rise, and does it appear to be?
Yeah, I mean, I study those statistics closely. You know, the amount of loneliness, the amount of sexlessness, the rise of virginity. It's all like worse than it's ever been, which is crazy because we have the most access to females than we've ever had in the past. Right? Like Casanova, he slept with like 130 something women. He's considered like the greatest seducer of all time. Whereas I was able to sleep with over 2,000, and in large part that's due to online dating, texting, and even simple things like having Uber and stuff like that to bring the girls back and forth from dates and hangouts. Um, but I think the loneliness is on the rise because there's so much defeatism and victimization these days. So like with the prevalence of the red pill and the black pill and MGTOW, men going their own way, forgetting about dating, there's so many guys that are like, well, I'm not in the 10%, the top 10%, and there's no way I can be, so I'm not going to waste my time with this. Or I'm not good looking enough, I'm not going to waste my time with this. Or, oh, all girls are just going to try to cheat on me and fuck me over, so I'm not going to waste my time on this. And then, I mean, all those are just like mistaken ideologies and incorrect
They're total
viewpoints.
myths. I mean,
And yeah,
I
they're giving up on themselves for no reason. Right.
yeah.
So I try to come in with the message that no, this is a skill game. They respond to behaviors and confidence and how you move them through the process from end to end. And if you learn how to do it strategically and you learn how to get your mindset in place, then you're going to be unstoppable. Like and guys don't understand that because they're so fixated on how much money they make and how they look and all this other stupid stuff. But the big common denominator is their mindset and their strategy and tactics. So, and I tell anyone that's skeptical to just go try, some of the stuff that I say. My YouTube channel is currently in limbo just because of the AI moderation ban wave, but we have the Rumble channel link in the description. I'm actually going to be going live directly after our stream here. That people are already waiting on my channel. If we can wrap up soon.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
I'm gonna be going live on Rumble on my channel. For those interested, you can click on the Rumble link in the description.
Yeah, guys, we got a couple links down below. Like I said, just I wanted to kind of approach this in a very empathetic way. I'm not trying to, tell you guys, up your dating game and go get laid a bunch. But I figured there's a lot of people in a position who could use this information. So from an empathetic perspective, I think John has a good approach to help men. And I think if you guys are in a position where you are experiencing male loneliness, or your dating isn't very good, or you want a wife and family is just not panning out, I mean, it seems that there is a productive way to approach this, and I encourage you guys to give it a try. I've used some of John's dating advice over the past, completely changed my outlook on it, because I was completely clueless. You know, even though I was blessed with, you know, pretty good looks and muscles and stuff.
Fitness model.
That's not a, yeah. I mean, I wasn't a legit model, but you know, that's not, you know, that's not everything. You know what I mean? I got rejected plenty of times. all the time.
Everybody does. That's the
Yeah.
thing, is that people think that, oh, if I was only good looking enough or only smooth enough, I would never get rejected. There's tons of girls that have boyfriends or husbands they don't want to cheat on, right? There's tons of girls that are in a bad mood, or that have a lot going on at work, or they're you know, stressed with life circumstances. And so if they snap at you, or they insult you or brush you off, it doesn't mean that you suck. Most guys just take it super personally, right? So you have to develop a little bit of a thick skin as well as you interact with a lot of different females, and not take it all personally, or direct reflections of your own worth.
Which I think developing that thick skin is a very useful skill just all over in life. You know, it's
Yeah.
very good, you know, a lot of transferable things you can learn. So if you guys, you know, if you guys are interested in getting help with this, put a couple links in the description. John's got a Rumble channel. He has a personal coaching system where he can walk you through this and help you navigate this crazy digital dating space. And
Yep.
if you guys want help getting in shape in the process, I offer personal coaching as well, where I literally train you virtually, direct you through doing everything correctly, your diet, so on. You combine these two things, and you know, it could be a significant level up in your life, guys. You know,
Yeah, and
don't, you
we've
know,
had a lot of the same clients as well that did both our programs, and benefited greatly from both.
yeah, I would say, you know, I would encourage guys, you know, don't be embarrassed, you know, if you have this kind of issue. Most men do. I would say be proactive and try to attack it and solve the issue. And you're going to just end up more fulfilled at the end of the day. Just get it done.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, you guys can go to platinumdatingsystem.com, or click that link in the description to book a free call with me, or we have my channel down below. We're hoping my YouTube channel is restored at some point, like 4,000 videos in there, but they're all on Rumble now as well. But yeah, always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me on. It was a good discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, John. And I'll see you guys next time.
Take care, guys.